guys, welcome back to Life on the Wrist. Hope you guys are doing well. What we're going to be discussing today is a new release from Audemars Piguet. We've done a couple of videos about this. I'm sure that they were anticipating to launch this at perhaps one of the trade shows, but what we're going to be doing is just giving you a brief overview of the watch, give you our initial thoughts on it, and tell you a little bit about it. Just full disclosure, we do not have this watch with us, so if you're looking for a video like that, be sure to check out some other videos on YouTube. This is just giving you some specs about the watch as well as our initial thoughts on it. But before we get into this watch, be sure to smash the like button for us. It really does help us out, as well as subscribe to the channel if you'd like these types of videos. Also, just check out our other videos because I'm sure there's going to be some that you'll probably like if you ended up stumbling upon this video. So like I said, Audemars Piguet has released one of their new a new watch. Actually, I believe it's going to be a collection of watches. It's essentially their remastered collection. This was the first watch to be released, and I was super excited to see that Audemars Piguet was doing something like this. A lot of watch companies are coming out with their new watches around this time. They probably have to re-strategize now that Basel World and SIHH have been postponed due to the fact that the Swiss government has enacted laws that bans gatherings of a large amount of people. So a lot of the watch trade shows have been shifted, and watch brands are probably trying to understand how trying to strategize and figure out how they want to release their watches. But the Audemars Piguet remastered collection, this is the master01 chronograph that was released by Audemars Piguet. It basically takes inspiration from some of the chronographs that they produced in the early 20th century. What's funny about this is they actually produced very few quantities of these watches. If you like watches and you kind of follow some other watch channels and blogs out there, you probably know of Alfredo Paramico, who is a very formidable collector who has his collection is probably one of the best in the entire world, and I think that's kind of well known. And he's probably the most outspoken about his collection. He has everything from like a Patek 5070 or 570, which is one of my favorite watches, to an Audemars Piguet vintage chronograph, which is kind of, I think, one of the watches that it's very similar to where Audemars Piguet took their inspiration for this watch, this remastered watch for. If you haven't seen his talking watches, be sure to check it out because it's one of the most interesting and vast collections that you can possibly have. Like I said, these chronographs were actually produced in very low quantities in the early 20th century. By Audemars Piguet's count, there's only about 307 of these watches actually out there. So very few quantity of vintage chronographs, and Alfredo Paramico explains how they're extremely rare, and he probably paid the most amount of money he has for that type of watch, for the chronograph that he actually has of that watch. So just going a little bit more in depth into the watch itself, the watch is based on the 1940s chronographs from Audemars Piguet, like I mentioned previously, but 1940s is the era that you're looking at. So already you can probably think, okay, it's probably going to be a little bit of a smaller size, very simple dial, etc. This watch actually measures 40 millimeters in diameter, which I think is kind of a sweet spot for a lot of people when it comes to wearing watches. 40 millimeters seems to be the most wearable size for them. And it's large enough that you can read it. So right, for today's standards, I think that's actually a pretty good place to be sitting. The case itself, if you look at it, I think it's not going to be everyone's taste. It's a two-toned case. The case back and the lugs are made out of stainless steel, and then the bezel, crown, and pushers are made out of pink gold. Like I said, I don't think this is going to be everyone's cup of tea. I think you have to be into two-tone watches or have at least a personality where you can tolerate two-tone watches, but I think it definitely is reminiscent of the chronographs that were produced back in the day, because this was actually done quite often. The dial of the watch is a golden yellow, and it has the old Audemars Piguet signature, which says Audemars Piguet & Co., and then below that Geneva logo. So again, it's taking a lot of the inspiration from their chronographs from early 1940s and using a lot of the elements that they used in those watches back then. Looking at the dial a little bit more specifically, the hours and minutes hands or stick are essentially just straight sticks, but the chronograph hands, so the two sub dials at 9 and at 3 are blued steel, so they really pop really nicely, and again are reminiscent of very classical watchmaking and classical chronographs of that era. On the left side there's a 30-minute counter for the chronograph. And actually on that 30-minute counter, you can actually see this 45 written at 6 o'clock on that subdial. And that 45 is actually what was used to time football matches, or if you're from the US, soccer matches. Each half of a football match is 45 minutes. So you could start your chronograph at the beginning of the game and know when the half comes about. So that's a really cool feature about it. And again, like taking those just little details from the past, I think is really cool. And then the right subdial is obviously the chronograph's hour counter. And then at 6 o'clock is where you find the seconds. I think it's a really cool dial layout. You also have a tachymeter around the outside of the dial. I really like the fact that the subdial has that little 45 for the football matches to time them. I think it's a feature that you don't see in modern day watches because you know, people are just not interested in having that on their watch, and perhaps people think it's not really useful. But I think it's unique, and I think it's a testament to the fact that there's people like watching football. And if you look at, you know, Alfredo Permico is Italian, and Italian collectors are obviously very big into football themselves, so it's a cool feature for them. Looking at the inside of the watch, the movement that the watch is running off of is the caliber 4409, which is actually modified from the 4401. It's obviously an in-house caliber from Audemars Piguet. The 4401, which is what the movement for this watch is modified off of, was actually in the code 1159, which is a watch that had a lot of differing opinions, and it was quite a controversial watch for those people who were interested in Audemars Piguet and watchmaking in general. Some people loved it, some people hated it, but I think it kind of is a testament to the fact that this code 1159 is not just about you know, those singular watches. The movements can also be, it's kind of like a movement revolution for Audemars Piguet, and they can use those movements in their other watches. This AP Remaster 01 chronograph is going to be produced in 500 pieces, so a limited quantity of pieces that are going to be released to public, and they're only going to be available in Audemars Piguet boutiques. I will say, there are a couple things that I want to talk about. I like the fact that there are few quantities. The quantity of production is lower than some of their other watches. I like the fact that they kept it at 500 because I think it also stays true to the fact that Audemars Piguet doesn't make a lot of these types of chronographs. In the past, they only made 307. This is a run of 500. I think it's nice that they have kept it to be a little bit more exclusive and kept it to be a lower amount so that it doesn't dilute the message of this watch. So just going into my thoughts about this, I've kind of given you an overview of the watch. Going into my thoughts now, I think this watch has showed the strength that Audemars Piguet has as a watchmaker. They're adding a collection to the types of watches that they're producing, and I think it's showing that they are capable of producing watches. I think the 1159 was kind of the start of this, but I think they're capable of producing other watches they don't have to have the Royal Oak support them and be the only watch that they can produce. They can produce some very, very beautiful watches, and I think this Remaster 01 is a perfect example of that. I know that I've in the past talked about how some Swiss watch companies are using their past designs and creating reissues and producing those and selling those, and I don't want to say I'm critical, but I'm skeptical about this practice because I don't want Swiss watch companies to rest on their past for their current lines. I want them to be innovative and create new things. And I don't think that this is an example of this because they're producing limited quantities, one. So it's not like they're mass producing these to sell as many units as they possibly can. I also think that instead of taking something from the past and doing it at mass and changing very little of it, I think Audemars Piguet has made slight adjustments, like the adjustment in the type of movement that is used, showing that their might within the watch manufacturing space and finding and putting together movements that are of high quality. I think it's not them taking advantage of the past, but actually innovating in the present. And I'm excited to get this piece in the metal and actually see how it fits and feels when you wear it. So I really like it. Congratulations on Audemars Piguet on a great release, and I'm looking forward to seeing it all over Instagram. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you didn't do it in the beginning, and I say it every single video, but if you didn't do it in the beginning of the video, be sure to smash a like on this video. If you enjoyed this Remaster 01, let me know in the comment section below, what do you think about this watch? I would love to hear your thoughts. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And with that said, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video, and until next time.